So we're up at Guy's, and this is a great story. This is a story more than a more than anything else. What happened is, I've had this bike 17 years. It never had a Quickshifter. So for my 80th birthday, think about this, 80th birthday, they got me a Quickshifter for my, actually Karen got it, for my 17-year-old bike. And now we're ready to test it. So what do you think? Should we go test it? How long did it take you to put it on? Do you know?
Well, again, because everything you had to access the coils and everything. A couple days.
Okay.
A little bit here at night, a little bit there.
Okay, 5 hours, 6 hours?
Yep, but here's the actual Quickshifter right there. That's the little guy right there. That little thing.
Okay.
It's like a pressure sensor.
It's a pressure sensor.
Yeah.
And you've got it at 70% right now?
Right.
Okay, cool.
Actually.
And there's a wiring harness that goes, of course, to the plugs. And I did the one on the MT09 that I own.
That was plug and play.
That's plug and play. You can do that in a couple hours. And it was about 150 bucks. How much was this one?
This one was $3 and change. Now, these are, technically they're a universal Quickshifter, but this one already had the connectors for the R1 for the coils.
Right.
Where you can, but technically you can put this on any bike. And it's adjustable through your phone. And
now, do they make
the module right there?
Do they make a way of doing this on a bike that doesn't have a shift rod?
Shift rod.
You know, okay. No, all the bikes you have here.
Oh, you're talking about like this?
Yeah, yes.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, you don't have that?
I think, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe where the lever...
Or like an RD. There's no way you could adapt this to an RD easily.
Well, I guess as long as it has this, there's got to be a way of attaching it to your shift shaft. Okay. So everything goes to the shaft here. So wherever this attaches to, as long as it's in a push, that will work. Same on that.
Well,
any bike.
You know, it's worth. I'm even worth checking out, because if you could adapt that, I'm thinking, yeah, you could adapt that. Well,
this would work on anything from 2 to 3 to 4 cylinders, and that's the module right there, and you control everything through your...
Well, if you had the wire loom with for 4 cylinders, you just leave 2 of them off.
That's what they say, yeah.
On a twin or a triple or whatever. But the one that came with the MT09, that was from Yamaha, that went right on snap. You didn't even have to take the gas tank off. You could plug it right out. A little difficult, you had a little tiny fingers to get it under the tank. But this one is totally different. And, okay, there's the module anyway. And Guy actually knows the gentleman that they did MotoGP down in Texas together, so. And he put it on for me. That's the easy thing. I had some family issues I had to deal with. I came back and it was done.
And this is the app that you use. And what you do is, like on yours, for example, I set 3,000 RPM. So under 3,000 RPM, the Quickshifter will not enable, just like it should be on any other bike.
Sure.
And then I limited it to 13,000. You're never going to go to 13,000.
No,
so what happens is when this runs, and I'll show you when we start it up, it'll show you your engine speed. And then when you go to sensor setup, right here, your sensor threshold is where I have it at 70%.
Okay.
Some people like it a little softer, a little harder, whatever. But like I said, once we take it for a ride and then you say to me, no, it's good, we'll leave it. If you want a little more pressure, if it's too sensitive, I can raise it up.
Okay.
Cutoff delay is 20 milliseconds. That you should probably leave it alone. I mean, again, we're not racing or anything. Yeah. There's no need for that. But other than that, it shifts crisp. I mean, you'll definitely love it.
And for this bike, the shift light comes on at 13.7. The red line is 13.7. I typically don't go to 13.7. It's right around 10. It comes on the pipe. It comes on nice at 10. And we're not racing anybody, but it's fun to have it. And what convinced me to have this was I enjoyed the one on the MT09 when I got... The day I installed that, I said, now I got to see if I can get somebody to buy me one for my 81st birthday. But anyway, we're going to go for a little test ride. And thank you, Guy, for getting that all taken care of. And again,
I'm not just a towing service.
Yeah, no. That was quite an adventure. We just had a couple weeks ago. We had a battery with what? A positive terminal came out like a lollipop. That was pretty
Oh,
interesting. Anyway, let's head out to the open road.
This is your original bolt for your shift linkage should you ever want to remove it. This is a jumper plug for whatever diagnostics is in here. And
that comes with the kit when you buy it?
yes, it came with a new shift bolt. And this is the...
Okay. And yeah, model specific, so...
Yeah, so this one was model specific for the R1. But, like I said, you could get a universal version of it where you have to manually wire it to the coils itself. Yes, so this is why they call it Quickshifter Easy, and then they have the regular Quickshifter that you can do yourself.
Okay,
but it's a very, very, very simple process. This is a great little Quickshifter. You're gonna like it.
Well, you already rode the bike, so you know it works good.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love it.
I love it already. So the initial test proved that 70% of the pressure you need to make the Quickshifter kick in was not enough. We stiffened it up, and I believe Guy put it to 80 or 90%, but it got better. You can see in that first test, if you go back and look, if your foot just touches that, it shifts. And for me, I'm kind of club-footed, or maybe I have big feet or something, but I needed to have that made a little bit stiffer. But as soon as that was adjusted, it was absolutely seamless. So the second fine-tuning thing, Guy had it set, and of course with your phone it's fully adjustable, and he's real good at doing this. He had it that it wouldn't work under 3,000. Well, ultimately I wanted it to not work up to maybe 5,000. Because when I'm riding around town, I don't use it at all. It's very clunky if you have it at 3,000 or 4,000 RPM. It doesn't shift very smooth. And the final small adjustment was I wanted to zero in exactly where I wanted the shift lever, and that took a little bit of fiddling back and forth to get exactly where I wanted it, but as the final tuning. Once that was all done, this just made the bike so much more fun. And of course, I'm sure everybody that gets a Quickshifter for the first time thinks, why didn't I do this years ago? It is absolutely a load of laughs and well worth the effort and the money. Thank you, Guy. Now, there might be a lot of people looking at this that need more information, or they're just looking for information about Quickshifter installs. I'm going to tack onto the back of this video the whole video of putting and it's a very easy plug and play for the MT09. The one for the R1 you need to do to take the tank and some of the top engine parts off, as Guy said, to get to the plugs. But no matter what Quickshifter you use, you've got to be able to get the wiring harness up to the plugs. That's really the biggest part of it. But if you have an MT09 or a bike very similar to an MT09 that has right from Yamaha the plug and play, you might find this video interesting. It's tacked on to the back of this video. I hope you like this one. Hope you enjoy the other one, and good luck with your Quickshifter. So today we're going to install a Quickshifter on our MT09 and hopefully get a nice test ride. Now on this video I'm going to try to show how to install an original equipment OEM Quickshifter from Yamaha. I bought mine from Partzilla. Cost was $136. On some of the models of this bike, and I don't know which, and it really doesn't matter because this is a 2020. I bought it brand new. It didn't have a Quickshifter, and Yamaha makes this as an accessory for this bike. It's supposed to be a plug and play. We're going to find out, and I'm going to try to cover any little thing that might help you install one on your bike, assuming that you have an MT09 that doesn't have a Quickshifter. Now, to be honest, and honesty in advertising here, I don't have a I've never had a quick shifter on any of my bikes. I own 9 bikes right now, 7 of them are registered, and I've had track bikes and I've had R1, Ninjas. Never had a quick shifter, so for me this is going to be a new experience, and I'll share my feelings with it once we go out on a test ride, and I can have a little fun playing around with it. But again, this is a brand new bike my wife bought me for my 75th birthday. Did not come with a quick shifter, and by the end of this day we're going to have a quick shifter on it, I hope. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention, putting a quick shifter on an older bike like my R1 is a 2009. I have looked at videos of people installing them, various ones beside the aftermarket one and the Yamaha one, and it looked like a very elaborate, complex job. I've had this motorcycle apart, had all the fuel injected off, replaced the starter motor, and taking this bike apart is not a 15-minute job. So I'm assuming, and I wanted to mention this right at the beginning of the video, if you have a complex sport bike, this is going to be a big job. What makes it a small, easy job is Yamaha. At one point in time, I believe, but I'm not sure, this was part of the motorcycle. And so it's already wired up. It already has a light on a dashboard for the traction control. And so what I think is they just maybe left this off as a way of keeping a price. This bike listed out at $88.99. So I think maybe they just did it to save money. Now you have to pay the $100, but it would have been nicer if they put it in at the factory. Just a little truth in advertising there. But anyway, it's $136. But the point that I wanted to make is putting a quick shifter, a Yamaha OEM quick shifter on this bike, a lot less of a job than on this bike. I wish I could say that I could just go buy one and plug it in somewhere on the bike. Supposedly there's a plug under the tank. This should be a relatively straightforward, relatively easy job, and that's what I wanted to make. I wanted to make sure people understand the difference between the difference between fitting an aftermarket quick shifter or a factory OEM. Again, a little bit more complex. The OEM plug and play, a lot easier. Now, since I got this for my birthday, I made some carbon fiber parts. I showed these on my channel. I have ordered from China a carbon fiber front fender. I polished up the wheels, that's on my channel. And I polished up the exhaust system. I'm not sure you can really even see it. We don't have good lighting in here. But I have a couple of comments to make about the MT09. I was not aware of, when I bought it, what a great bike this is. This really exceeded my wildest dream. And now that I've had it, and I've got about 4,000 miles on it, I'm more than willing to do upgrades, and I have other things in mind here. Don't want to let the cat out of the bag just quite yet, but it has been, if you're new to the world of MT09s, it is the most fun bike I have ever had. And I've had a lot of bikes in my almost 60 years of owning motorcycles. I've had quite a few motorcycles. So let me go downstairs to the shop, unbox the kit. We always like on our videos to do an unboxing so you see what you get for your money. And then come out to the garage and do the install. And hopefully today, if we get a decent day this afternoon, we'll even get our test ride this afternoon and try to share my impressions of how it worked. So some truth in advertising. Before I go any further, I like to keep everything as straight up and honest as I can possibly do. Even though Partzilla is one of the people that has advertised or may advertise on this video, I don't know. I do not get things for free. I paid the price, the normal price everybody pays. Again, it's $136 for what's in this box. And I assume this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, I wanted to mention one thing about this, because this is a 2020. I had called down to Partzilla. I had spoken to them on the phone, and I wanted to be sure because their SKU didn't show that this fits a 2020. It shows up to a 19. But since the bikes are very similar, and I didn't think they'd change much in terms of the shifting linkage or the connection under the tank, but obviously we're gonna find out. So they told me, and I've known this to be true, so I wanted to pass, again, good information on. Save all the packaging. Don't just rip it all up and throw it away. There's a pack and slip in here, which I don't really need. I'm going to take this apart with a razor blade very carefully, because if this doesn't fit and I have to return it, I want to have all the original packaging. So basically this is what you get. Directions, of course. The Quickshifter parts are all in little bags, and each one has a unique Yamaha, the number. And I want to keep all the packaging. I don't want to tear it all up. I'll take that out of the packaging now. Okay, so I carefully took everything out. I'll read the instructions before we do anything. I know this type of joint is used in aviation all the time. And I'll just pass on a little bit of information that I know from designing and making control systems for aircraft that use this type of joint, a ball joint, a Heim joint, whatever you're going to refer this to. If this ball joint starts to develop a little play, what happens is these ball joints, they beat themselves to death. It's really important to keep this one tiny drop of lubricant on there, and I'll put some on there, of course, and keep it clean so dirt doesn't get in. Because wear here, if the shifter were to start doing that somewhere down the road, a year, 2 years, whatever, I don't know how bad it would be, but I know in an airplane it's not good to have that. And of course the Quickshifter parts. So we're basically ready to read the directions and head out to the shop and get this installed. Now I read the directions over, and I'm going to be going step by step to try to make this, it looks like it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy, but just for somebody that may have a question, hopefully we can answer all the questions on this video. And step one is to remove the rod and save all the parts. So just to make this just a little bit easier, I put a piece of blue tape across, slid it with a razor blade so I know these are very accurate. There's actually a little casting mark here that you can reference off with, no matter how you do it. And this is just so when I put this back together with the new linkage, it should be very easy to line it right back up where it was. Otherwise, you got to do it by eye. And when you pull the rubber boot back, you can see there's an Allen bolt. That'll come off, and there's a little spacer in the back. And we saved those parts. And just to mention, one thing that can be handy to have when you're working in these confined areas, these come from Harbor Freight or anything similar, so you can look in and see. It just makes it a little bit easier here out in the garage. Now I know under some conditions you'd have better lighting. I don't have exceptionally good lighting here, so it's always handy to have a little tool like this, especially when we get underneath the gas tank to get this plugged up. This will be an invaluable tool. Now this is a bolt that usually has Loctite on it, and we're going to put Loctite on it. It tells you right in the directions which bolts need Loctite. You definitely don't want to leave these loose. Now the problem is if this were to get loose and start vibrating, it's going to beat that Heim joint to death. That's the other problem here. And we'll be real careful about saving these parts. Now the bottom Heim joint stays in position. We just need to loosen this nut, and then we can thread out. This piece will thread right out. Now this piece has reverse threads on each side is different, so as you twist it, it gets longer. Twist it the other way, it gets shorter. Okay, so with that piece off, now we're going to unscrew these nuts, and one is reverse thread. We're going to use these nuts over when we build the new part that's going to have the electrical contact in it. So I'm using the directions. I'm going step by step. Pretty self-explanatory. We're taking parts off of this, the original part. I need the nut from the end, so I got to take off the old Heim joint, put that away. I need this nut. I'll save the linkage, of course. This nut is going to go on here on the new Heim joint. And remember, on one of these, on the bottom one, it's a reverse thread. So if you're not familiar with threads, that can be a little confusing. Now, again, I'm looking at this. I want to make sure I go step by step. Now what I did before I actually assemble this, and this is a good idea, if you read the directions, it'll tell you the dimensions. There's going to be a dimension up here, and I'll try to explain what this is all about. The dimension up here is so that, and this would obviously be one of the first things to do, the directions are okay, but they want a certain amount of threads caught. What they don't want to have is that this piece is only hanging on by one thread. What would happen then, this would tend to do that. So I want to make sure, and their dimension is, and what I've done, I've been really clever about this. I went down to my calculator on the computer and calculated out the dimension they want is 24 millimeters. It's actually 15/16, and I want to measure that before I just hand tighten a nut. Now let me definitely make sure I'm not misunderstanding what they're trying to say here, because I'm trying to pass this information on in a logical way. I'm going to try to show this as best I can. This is the dimension I'm looking at, is the center of the heim joint. Let me just get this. And the back of the nut. And I know you see, it doesn't show up well on the video because I'm at an angle here. I'm getting a parallax angle. But it's that dimension center to there. Now what the purpose of that is that I know now I have enough of the threads caught in here. So I'm just going to make this hand tight just so it doesn't move while I do the rest of the assembly. Okay, the next step with that part hand tight is to get this threaded in just enough that we can do our overall dimension. Now the next step on this is a little tricky because again, this part is, if I turn it one way, it gets shorter, one way longer. Put this back on the bike, and then I want the overall dimension to be the other dimension I worked out on my ruler, that when I adjust this, I want to get both sides started at the same time, get this in place, and then adjust this to the overall length. And then make sure that my shifter is still in the right position. This is kind of a critical adjustment. So before I do this part, I'll get a drop of Loctite on both sides of this, because ultimately I want this not to move at all. Now basically, as I'm turning this, I'm going to try to wind up, I'll put it in 4 or 5 turns and see how close I am to where I ultimately want to be, and then I want to measure the center to the center and make sure I'm in the dimension. And when I am in that dimension, I want the shifter to line up all at the same time. But again, as I turn this one way, the rod gets longer, the other way it gets shorter, and there's a flat spot so you can put a wrench on it. But right now everything is just hand tight. Now because I have this basically roughed in now, I can put this bolt in, put the little spacer on the back, and when I'm all done I'll make sure this has the right lubrication on it. Again, keeping these heim joints lubricated and clean, a big thing. This is just going to allow me, nothing is tight yet, because I don't have the final dimension. Now I don't have this dimension. I need to go to my ruler. This has to come out the bottom, so I've got to back this out, and I can see this is one of the steps you would not want to get wrong, so a good thing I did this. And this goes on the bottom. And let me just take this off and put this on this way. Again, the directions are pretty complete, but it can be tricky. That's right, now that's on the bottom where it should be. Now by making this hand tight, this is on the bottom. Now I can set the final length. That's the last step. Now what I've done is I've just reset this by eye, because I'm going to check this dimension now. Center to center with my ruler, that I've got a very accurate dimension. And see, and actually if it comes out real close, I'm real close right here, then I already have Loctite on all the threaded parts, and I can just sock everything down to torque. Now one thing I realized, the ruler is not going to get in there conveniently, so I took a thin piece of wood and I marked accurately on it where that dimension is going to be, and this piece of wood now will allow me to get in there and just do the measurement a lot easier, but I've taken it off of a real draftsman's ruler. So this is a lot easier for me, and I know this is not going to work. I'm getting that on center, and right here I'm on center, so I'm really close. And that's the dimension they want. And at the same time, that lines up with exactly where this was from the factory. So I feel pretty good that we can right now torque these down to the settings they give in the directions. And I know they don't want you to over torque any of these. They don't want you to strip them. So I'm going to do exactly what the directions say. So remember, this is a reverse thread, this is a standard thread, this is a standard thread. And you don't want to over tighten them, just use Loctite. It's a much better choice. Now we can also, once I'm going to put a drop of the grease that I use, and because I don't want these, just one little drop of grease will be enough. And I don't want them to be oozing grease out either, but if that's not greased, there's going to be wear and tear on the bottom one too, of course. The bottom one is actually probably the worst, the more chance of getting dirt on it because of the chain and everything, but keeping those clean and greased, an important thing. Now I'll just let this work its way in, and what'll happen is, and I'll wipe every last little bit off. I only want it in the areas, and of course at the bottom too, down there. I only want this to penetrate on the wearing surface, keep that from beating itself to death. And a final torque setting on this is 7 foot-pounds, so again, you really don't want to overdo it. And of course, use Loctite. So the next step on this is to locate where this little plastic clamp goes, because it's going to keep the wire from interfering that comes from the Quickshifter and goes up under the tank. So this blue tape is here to show you where to put the clamp, this little plastic snap clamp, and of course you don't want it interfering with the heim joint. It just attaches that right to the electronic part of that shifter. And it's just a question of just pressing the clamp on, making sure it's where the blue tape is, that there's no tension on anything. And now this is ready to route up under the seat, up under the tank area here. Next thing we have to do is raise the tank and take the seat off. Now the next step is to loosen the 2 shoulder bolts, and then we'll be able to raise the tank right up with a block of wood or a rubber hammer or something and see if we could reach in. Now I know it's a tight clearance in there, so it's going to be a little challenging. I may have to do a little fooling around here, but because I have big fat fingers, but if you have nice little fingers, this is a great time. With the 2 bolts out, I wanted to, there it is, right there is the connector, I believe, but I have to check. I have to route that wire up through there, make sure I can get my fingers in there, and I think that's going to be a challenging thing. And when you go to route this wire, having a set of forceps or needle nose pliers or something equivalent to that is a really big help. Unless, of course, you have that magic thing, little baby fingers, which I don't have. Okay, now that goes back there. Kind of straightforward, but that'll go there. And this is just going to get snapped, but again, this is more challenging than what you think it really is to get that. So now on this piece there's a little cover, and that cover, it's a little tricky to get it off. I think it's easier to get it off from the other side. You got to get that cover off before you can, of course, snap the wire together, and it only goes in one way. There's the little cover that comes off, and there is a little tang. You have to press down on the tang and pull this off and hope that that you have nice tiny fingers. It would have been nice if they left maybe 1/4 of an inch more of material. And the snap is on the bottom, the snap is on the bottom. Okay. As I said, challenging. Now the instructions say it's easier to get it to snap from this side, and well, looks like they were right, to be honest. Okay. That's the most difficult part of the whole job. So here you have this special zip tie, and this part plugs in. There's a hole in the frame, in a bracket, and then that becomes a zip tie that just holds the wire from chafing. So let's just trace this up. Here's a little clamp that holds the wire there, and there's a little bracket, and it's right here where my finger's pointing. It has a little hole in it that attaches where that's going to snap in, and that just keeps this wire from doing that, from flapping around. Now this is a good place to have forceps too. What I found is a good way to do this is just put this right in the middle, and that of course is going to snap in. And the forceps, without these forceps, I don't know how you could get in there and just snap that in. It just snaps in.
And actually that worked out just about perfectly. And that's about, there's no interference on anything. Now, as I put this back, one little tip that you probably won't find anyplace else, because I'm always the lucky one that has this happen. I have the two bolts that came out of here. One came right out. The other one, I'm not sure why. It didn't have any lock. It does not have any Loctite on it, and yet it really didn't come out the way it should. So what I had to do, let me show this. Maybe this is something useful. I had to take and grind I did this with a Dremel tool. Just put a screwdriver screw, because once this radius is out, you'll never get the bolt out. So I just put a cutting wheel in. So I don't know the proper name for this tool. I've had it for so long, and it's served me well. But anytime you can't get a bolt out, as a last resort, you can grind with a Dremel tool, grind a notch, and this will usually get it out. And what happens is the grinding of the notch heats the bolt, so if it's an interference thing because of some red Loctite or something, this is like the nuclear option. But again, I don't know the real name of the tool. It's a Harbor Freight tool, so they probably named it whatever they wanted. But it is a good tool, and it works. And just for reference, this is a tool that'll cut a notch in a grade 8 bolt. These are available at Harbor Freight too. They plug right into a Dremel tool. In this case, it's a Roto Zip heavy duty tool. But I've found out these are really, really useful. That is a great tip. When you can't get a bolt out, when you grind that notch, that heat just makes the bolt so much easier to get out. It works almost every time. Anyway, this went pretty well. And once this is done, of course we have to set. And I'll go through it. I'm trying to do this in exactly the directions, or very similar anyway, because I think most people, if they do this, and you're a backyard mechanic, you want to know, number one, you know, the easiest way to do it and what the little pitfalls are. And not being able to get that bolt out is a pitfall. So now I've got to tighten this all up, and we're ready to energize the Quickshifter. I think the real problem with this whole thing was these bolts are just soft material. These are not grade 8 bolts or anything. And they don't have to be to do the job they're doing, but when the threads aren't exactly right, well, that's nice. Okay, everything's back the way it is. Put the seat on, and we're ready to set the Quickshifter. And you would think a brand new motorcycle you wouldn't have issues like this, but it seems like 1 in a million, and I get the 1 in a million. So the way this is supposed to work is you're supposed to put a really good amount of pressure on a Quickshifter, which I am. Turn this key, count to 10, and in 10 seconds that light should come on. And you shut it off the same way. You hold it on, and 10 seconds later it's supposed to come on, because you can shut it off. And there it is. There's the Quickshifter light. Now the Quickshifter does not work when you pull a clutch in, so that's one thing to keep in mind. But I think we're almost ready to get out on, do a little test ride and see how this is going to play out. And again, if you don't like it, you can always just not use it. So it's easy, or you can shut it off. But that is, the QS is the Quickshifter light. Now, being honest, I don't know which bikes, modern bikes, come with Quickshifters. Some do, some don't. But what's really nice, I wish I had a plug and play for the R1. Well, you know, that's a much bigger job. This was really a relatively simple, relatively straightforward job. I hope I didn't leave out any steps or any tips that might help you if you're doing this for the first time. Now, if you're new to our channel, we have a very, very eclectic channel. One of the new features we have now is some of the videos are grouped into groups that you can access all the videos for one category in one mouse click. And it should be very convenient and very handy. Just check out the feature on the main screen playlist. And thanks to everybody for supporting the channel. We appreciate your support, and it makes this channel possible with all the things we do, the painting, the wheels, the polishing. And please take a second or two and hit the like button.
and thanks everyone for watching.